Hello again. I did not make it out to the park yesterday, but it was for good reason. I caught up with a friend, and she has a job where the only day she really has available is Sunday. No, she has Saturday and Sunday available, but as a friend, I recognize that everybody needs their alone time sometimes. And if you work a 9 to 5, you're going to need at least Saturday to yourself and Sunday maybe for socializing or going to your house of worship or something like that. Okay? But I appreciate the fact that she made space and time for us to catch up. So catch up we did. Never you mind. I'm being better about expressing myself in a way that I'm not as nervous. But I'm gonna tell y'all, it made me nervous, but also happy. For the first time in many years of posting things, I was happy to see my numbers jump. It didn't give me anxiety. I didn't worry about what people were going to do or think or say. It was the first time, I think, that I didn't get a little something. Now, I've always gotten a little something positive about people responding well to the things that I say, but there was always another side to it. There's a fear component for me. If I'm being frank and honest, there's a fear component for me that I've experienced in real life. It's not a fear born out of nothing. I've experienced certain things in real life and online and spaces that I'm like, I don't know if I want to deal with any of that. And I previously told y'all, like, I want to always be steady in my mind. And for me, that means that I do this freely without some other thing propelling me forward other than wanting to teach, but want to share my experiences so hopefully anybody who hears them either be encouraged, entertained, or learn something. But I do appreciate, I want to take a moment, I do appreciate, I don't know why it happened. Because I ain't doing nothing different than I normally do. At least I don't think. I ain't doing nothing different, but I appreciate the new viewers. Thank you. Anyway, so that's this passage that I used to like when I was growing up, and I revisited it recently. When I say revisited, y'all know how sometimes you just be minding your own business and something will just come into your reality. It was kind of like that, and it was Ephesians. I think it's Ephesians 9. Somebody correct the record or make that if y'all can be so inclined and put that in somebody's comments. But if you know the passage, as things were before, they will be again. So there's nothing new under the. It's basically the origin of the saying there's nothing new under the sun. What happened before happened again. That's why I think there is some confusion. Now I could be wrong about this. Some things are subjective, and some things I make intuitive leaps about. So that's another terminology I'm gonna start using, intuitive leaps. But those intuitive leaps are always going to be based on logic and some kind of factual information that I've gathered over time, and it painted a picture. And that's where I was like, I may not need to do more research here. I'm thinking there's an intuitive leap. Like if somebody walking down the street, they're on fire one day, and the next day you see them with bandages, you can make an intuitive leap that they went to the hospital to treat those wounds. I know that's graphic, but it's like intuitive leaps. Basically, you may not need other information. There's something you can gain from inference from the reality you're experiencing. Anyway, but my intuitive leap about what I'm about to say is, I think that that's where a lot of confusion comes in for previous ancient texts. I've taken an intuitive leap of using that passage from Ephesians to say, I know there's some people who are confused about Thoth, who are confused about or Osiris, and I hope I get the right Egyptian deity, and Jesus, for example, saying, oh, those stories were stolen over time and rewritten in a way that's more palatable for the current generation. But I think that to the leap that I'd like to take is there's nothing new under the sun. We recycle all the time. In our being and our spirits, we recycle all the time. And that recycling is no different than how we recycle our water. Every drop of water on earth was always the same drops of water that's been on earth. I know it's kind of hard to think about it, but it doesn't make it not true. so, so too is our stories, our experiences. That's another reason. That to a leap I had a long time ago when I used to study ancient Egypt as a nerdy child. The first thought I had was, wait, they still stole this story from that story, that story. That was the first thoughts I had. Because, yeah, given no other information, those are the facts I had at the time. But given more information, it's more likely to me. It don't have to be to you. It's more likely to me that we recycled through and other incarnations. I think it's easier for me to contend with the concept of that than theft, right? And also, like, I think what also helped me bring that home, and I know it's a more recent thing, is Avatar: The Last Airbender. That cartoon is so magical. It's such a work of art. If you've not seen that cartoon, it's a sign. Once you get to a certain point, learning from me, especially if you decide you want to learn from me individually, that's a signed viewing. I think that's fun, but it's a signed viewing. Avatar: The Last Airbender. It's a signed viewing. Because it helps. I think it's a beautiful representation of shadow work. A beautiful representation of ancestral respect, but understanding your lineage, by realizing we come in many forms and in many different ways. And in one life, our DNA, even if you don't believe in reincarnation, you can believe in science, right? And that our DNA extends far beyond us, previous to this life. It has an origination somewhere, right? So if you look at it from that perspective, you can say, well, it is lived in many various cultures in various ways from the beginning of time. And when I say beginning of time, not time itself, honey. That is relative. And it's mostly a social construct. But I don't think it is irrelevant. Time matters. But in this argument, it doesn't necessarily. Well, not necessarily an argument. Philosophical statement. Which can be perceived as an argument depending upon your viewpoints. Anyway. But in The Last Airbender, you can see how we only are disconnected by the thoughts of our socializations. Because within that, every element, cultural element, was represented in Aang's ancestors and previous incarnations. And incarnations, again, from a scientific perspective, you can almost look at that through the prism of what is within you was within you before you. It was within others before you, I'm sorry. And if it was within others before you, that means there are things that our DNA is not just about our physiological body. It also helps us with our aptitude, our intelligence. It also helps, intelligence gathers our thoughts and our consciousness. So if, for example, if you become more consciously aware and emotionally and physically secure. And when I say emotionally and physically secure, it means that if you've had emotional deficits and defects growing up, and before you have children, you heal those things, iron those things out, and then get your body to a space of healthiness for you. That's an individualized thing. This is not about skinny or fat, but healthiness for you. And then decide to have children, it is more likely that those children are going to be healthier overall. I don't think that anybody would disagree with that. So, as it pertains to, like, when people talk about generational curses, we have to actively participate in breaking those. Mm-hmm. So, I feel comfortable in saying that I do believe in the reincarnation of it all. You ain't got to. But the reason why I believe in it is because I looked at it from all the different perspectives that I was either bored enough or interested enough or curious enough to read into, because there's not just one school of thought on everything, and to dismiss any schools of thought, I think, is a disservice to intelligence. You do a disservice to intelligence to dismiss something because somebody else already told you it don't make sense, and not look into it for yourself. The older the book, or the older the information, the better. Because see, the information that be coming out nowadays, this is not subjective to me at all. Sorry if I'm shaking the phone, because now I'm wagging a finger. With the AIs of it all, and the misinformation of it all, the intentional misinformation of it all, it's very hard to find something concrete. That's why I say look to old things. Look to things that's been here for a long time. Look to those things to study knowledge. They've been here long. They had test of time for a reason. Now, I'll be the first one to tell you that there are some problematic things in the subjective opinions of some people who wrote some old things. But doesn't mean there's not good knowledge, advisement, and assistance within those old things. Okay? So again, we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. We go ahead and see what it is to heal us, to help us, to get us through. And then we say, you know what, some things are not for me at this time anymore. I'm going to go ahead and be okay with the love that is here because somebody took their time to write this. I don't believe or perceive necessarily that they had ill intent when they wrote it. There are cultural perspectives also represented here too. So we must understand from that perspective as well. And I've previously stated that in my own little way. I just wanted to reiterate it. But there's nothing new under the sun. Everything comes again. Everything repeats itself. And here's the thing about that. We are all, humanity, experiencing it in real time. Cycles repeating themselves. Now, I'm going to use a reference that's in the zeitgeist and current pop culture, and that is Diddy, right? Didn't we just cycle through that with Epstein? That whole thing, we just cycled through. If you look at the timeline on how things shaped out, what are we doing right now at this time when it was cycled out at around the same kind of time period when it came to that case, right? Waiting on a list of people. We found a bad guy, distracted us from a lot of stuff. I'm not a conspiracy theorist on that count. I'll do a side note on conspiracy theories in a moment. So you just wait. Okay? And all of the same type of behaviors that were being displayed before is being displayed again. And this time it's a different target. That's all. Okay? And I don't have no dog in that fight because I don't know nothing about none of that. Some of it's hilarious, but some of it's not. The human being is human. That's all I got to say about that. I like it best. I think the best thing you can say about all that is, and I think I've mentioned it before, Denzel Washington said it. And I think it's very wise. And I felt it when I saw him say it in an interview a long time ago. It's okay to party, but you gotta leave before the devil show up. That's all. And it's not about constructing a devil per se. For me, that can be metaphorical. Okay? I don't think people need a devil to fear or God to fear. I think we can actually, within our own being, learn, trust, and understand that we are all source energy. And being accountable, it's hard to be self-accountable sometimes, because then you and you alone have to make these choices and shape your reality and love, truly love, with all of the strength and vulnerability attached to it in order to recreate or shape your reality. It's easier to depend on punishment and gifts from something outside of you. It's easier. I know I've lived both experiences, and that one is easier. But I think that easy feeling is temporary, Because I think that's the reason why we keep cycling through. It's because we keep forgetting who we are. We keep forgetting that we are the source of our energy and we are a part of one. We keep forgetting. And we get reminders throughout our lifespans. We sure do. And even if you have one or two ancestors that knew, you know, there's something within you that has an inner knowing, that you are connected to everything and everybody around you. And so the behavior that you display and the things that you do are impactful, not just yourself, but everyone around you. Mm-hmm. And because of that, that means you create. You create. Every day you create. What you're creating, though, is up to you. It could be something beneficial to you or not. I'm a fan of just being, just being and figuring out how to be happy within that being. And sometimes I figure out that day. And sometimes I don't, but I still choose something that gives me joy, peace, or relaxation at the very least. And then keep putting one foot in front of the other. It's not that complicated. At least not for me. I do have tough moments. I've told y'all that before, but when I have my tough moments, I'm like, what can I do for this not to be so hard? Put one foot in front of the other and try my best. That's it. But ain't nothing new in the sun. And you ever imagine yourself being what was? And then also what is? Please take some time and sip some tea or some coffee and think about what was and being what was and what is. And if you what was and what is for a moment, have a little thought experiment. What can you create from what was and what is? In your mind, imagine a world in which we don't have war, we don't have strife within the context of culture. All cultures are welcome. Imagine a world, I'm just asking you, imagine a world in which there is not a hierarchy based on anything other than the work that you put out and expect to receive back in. Imagine a world in which everybody is held accountable for their actions, not just those who are unprivileged. If you can imagine that world, you can perceive it in your mind's eye. I think that you can go about trying to create that in yourself and help others create that too. And even if you find just a little pocket, a little bubble of which you've created within yourself and helped others create within their own bubble, you might end up changing something. You might end up doing something real special. You never know. If I'm being honest, and I try to when I'm doing this, because I don't see why not at this point. You can't do nothing publicly and say public things. You can, but I don't recommend saying and doing stuff publicly that you can't back up with receipts or that you can't stand on 10 about. Because nowadays everybody's got something on somebody. Oh goodness. Or if they don't have something on you, they can fact check you. Anyway, I don't even know why I said that. I told you before, it's okay for a thought to escape you. If it's important enough, it'll come back. Oh, my ear just went off. Sorry, y'all. Sometimes that happens. Anyway. But the next thing I wanted to talk about was like, that's what, as it was before, it will be again. When we think of that concept, we can think of it from a perspective of shadow or light. Do you want it to be again? Is it something that you know dang gone well it shouldn't be? It's not helpful to you? Listen. One thing Dolores Cannon said that I really agree with is that when we make children, when we create new life, we're creating karma. But we have also the opportunity to create dharma within that dynamic as well. But this is subjective, so I mean, your opinion is yours and mine is mine. And this is based on the reality that I live in. Okay? I don't believe that we should be outnumbered as parents. Like, I do believe that children deserve individualized love, care, and attention. And one of the ways you can do that effectively as a parent and pass down knowledge and any resources that you have is to not be outnumbered. So two heads if there are two parents, one head if there's one parent, that kind of thing. But I also believe in what Michael Jackson said: don't have a baby if you can't feed your baby. That kind of thing. It's not fair to them. Because you might say, well, when this baby comes, I don't know how I got on this tangent, but whatever, we're going to go with it. When this baby comes, do everything I can for his baby. But sometimes whatever you can is working 2 or 3 jobs to make sure the baby have a roof over their head and clothes on their back. But what about the emotional needs of that child? The attentive needs of you being actually there and present. There are going to be a lot of days if you by yourself or even with a partner and y'all outnumbered by the kids that they may not have you available to them. Now, some people are living a privileged life because this is their life. They have a little bit of privilege, I suppose. So maybe 3 would be all right. But I still feel like the emotional needs are not as met when there's 3 or more to 2 parents. Now, if you have a village of people helping you raise them babies, then that's a different story. But that's not always the case. It's mostly not the case. That you have a village helping you with those babies. I think that a friend of mine said it best the other day. We neglect the concept of all when we don't think about all things. Love my children, but if I had to do it again, I would have had less children or waited longer before I had children. Obviously, there was some ignorance and not understanding, but also I was, to be fair, told I couldn't have any children, so I wasn't really all that concerned about it once I was monogamous with my partner. So when it did happen to me, it was quite a shock for everyone, including my doctors. And it's like, nope, that's a fluke. It's never going to happen again, especially after the damage. Never going to happen again. It's like, okay, boom, another one. I'm like, what? I was like, this is impossible. I was distraught. And it wasn't because I wasn't in love with my babies once I feel them moving and all those things, but it was very challenging to conceive of being told for so long that this was never going to happen and accepting that fact and then having it happen and then having it happen 3 times. So, yeah, that was a challenge. It was one of life's many challenges that I've faced. And so, but if I had to do it again, and it's not because of them, it's because of me. Because I feel like I had all the tools within me to be for them and with them without emotionally, spiritually, without the resources. And I wasn't a single parent, but we didn't make a lot of money. So on 9 times out of 10, I was in school and working most of the time. And I was perpetually exhausted because when I wasn't in school and working, I was at home cleaning house and cooking meals. And don't ask me when I slept. Because, child, I used to take naps whenever I could, and that was it for almost 15 years. Social life was social life. I didn't have one. Not until they became teenagers. And I got as much in as I could, but that still wasn't a whole lot. That wasn't fair to myself, and it wasn't fair to them. So that's why I advise that. It's my own reality and my own experiences. But also, I've experienced this similar stories through other women and men across the board. So I told y'all before, I advocate for waiting until you're at least 28, 29 before creating a human. And now I'm telling you another step is I would advocate for you to be emotionally well, financially well, and able to do that. Not barring that, if you find yourself in those circumstances, do the best you can. You have a little bit of while they're tiny and little to work on yourself. And you already had a little one, you have that time to work on yourself, your own emotional stability. Go to therapy. Spiritually cleanse yourself in whatever way, in whatever modality that you feel is comforting to you. When I say spiritually cleanse yourself, I mean, if you know there are things from your childhood in all kinds of ways, do you some shadow work. Look up shadow work if you haven't already and stop doing some shadow work. That means going through all the things that trigger you, all the ways in which you do maladaptive behaviors and things. Why are you so rigid? Why are you not rigid? Why are you so free with yourself and not more self-protective? Go through explore all those things. Why the little one's little. I'm saying this to my younger selves, so that when they become older selves, well, when your little ones become bigger ones, they don't see all the damage in you that you haven't had the time to figure out. You got the time now. When them little ones are little, you have more time than you know. You don't realize how much time you got. Because it's when they get bigger is when they to work. my girls, they really put me to work. My girls put me to work. Mostly my oldest one. She put me to work, child, from day one. Well, no, when she was a baby, she was quite quiet and very... You know, I say you get the baby who sleeps all night and does it. And the second one came out like she was in a hot ride on fire. But the first one came out just like squeaky. She would cry. When she would cry, we're like, get better here. The second one would scream so loud, people thought we was in there setting her on fire. Nothing was wrong. We put it down for a second. She was a spitfire. And my son was just sweet. Very, very sweet. So it was a mixed bag. And I don't know why I got here from there, but I think it's more of on the line of understanding where you came from. And if you understand where you came from, then you understand where you could potentially go to. And sometimes that potential going is understanding that you're a creator. You don't have to accept what is. You could do something different at any time. Again, if you think about the character, you think about your character. One day you could be one thing, and the next day you could change some things, and your character is entirely different. But that's not up to nobody else. That's up to you. That's entirely up to you. Nobody else gets to define that. Now, there's people who try, but only you can express what you truly are. And by expression, I mean not just talking, but being and doing. That's a you thing. Here are some rules that I govern myself by at this time in my life. One, if it's going to create karma, I'm not participating if I can possibly manage it. And when I say create karma, it's not just engaging in things that are overtly karmic. And when I say karmic, I mean things that are hurtful to self and others. Because it doesn't matter if you think you're right or wrong. If somebody's still mad at you, and the day that you close your eyes, guess what? And you ain't even got to believe that. This is one of those things that are belief structure based only on the things I've studied across belief structures. What was before always is kind of thing. You close your eyes, they still got some unfinished business with you. Guess what? That's still your business. It's one of the things that has guided me. And you can take that just to use it as practice, even if you think that's imaginary. Because here's why: it helps you forgive. You don't want no stuff left over here. If you release it, they're gonna have to work that out with somebody else, because you've released and healed it. But if you don't release and heal, then you go away from it. That's why so many people, they start getting closer and closer to source energy. And I know there's folks that think that nothing else goes on after we close our eyes on earth for the last time. That's just that we get this one life. And if that's what you believe, it's not inaccurate, because there's no time at any time that someone closes their eyes and possibly reincarnates energetically for whatever reason, are they going to be in the same vessel ever again? Or it could be the same being ever again. Why? Because there are 2 DNA strands, honey. You're going to be incorporated in something else. I can't say it more simpler than that. But DNA is our evidence and proof of reincarnation. I'm just saying. You mean to tell me, if you don't believe what I just said, think about it this way. Come on, sit down, children. I'm about to learn you something. If you took a whole bunch of pennies and you cataloged them, let's say we took about 46, And then we had another thing of 46 and another thing of 40. Let's say we have 1,000 sets of 46. And we cataloged all of them. And then we took them all, and each one of them represents an individual. And then we took all of that, we jumbled them up, and just reorganized them in those sets of 46. Okay? I'm making the number wrong for DNA strands, but the metaphor will still lie, so don't worry about the number. Anyway, at a certain point, it will take a long time, but eventually, if you keep doing that, you'll get back to the similar to or original state of the original 46. It's a matter of time, but when that happens, who knows? If you keep jumbling up the same number sequence, eventually you're going to come back to the square one. So we have the same amount of DNA that's always was and always will be. So you mean to tell me there's no possibility that the same type of person will come back into being if we jumble up them pennies enough time? If enough time has passed. And I have an idea, not facts, but I have an idea based on intuitive leap. It takes about 2,500 years or so for DNA to cycle through. Something like that. And I could be wrong about that, but I'm just taking an intuitive leap. I have no evidence other than based on what I told you. Numbers. Something like that. And that's the reason why I can see the cycles of it all. Like, it's one of those things that fascinate me. From 2019 up until now, you can see the different cycles of things happening. And again and again and again. And there's purpose to it. Because some of us are learning lessons and understanding our reality from a perspective of time speeding up. We have to learn this. We have to learn this and do or die. We have to learn and perceive our reality a little bit more acutely. That's my subjective opinion as to why we're cycling through over and over again. It's like you have different characters, but the same story is playing out over and over and over again. If you look at every major news story and categorize those things from 19 up until now, you see similar storylines happening over and over and over again. And you think we're not creating that as a species? Yeah, we're creating that over and over and over again. What did we not learn? That's why it's repeating itself. What didn't we learn? That's my subjective opinion, that part. The reason why the cycles are happening is because it's showing us what we didn't learn and what we still need to learn. Now, if we figure that part out, we might make some movement on some stuff. Mm-hmm. Now, I promise y'all I was going to go on a tangent about conspiracy theories. It's not a long one. It's a brief one. I will say this. If you have conspiracy theories, cool. And some people get joy and jollies out of that. I'm not going to yuck your yum. But I'll say this. It's been my experience that the majority of people who are really into conspiracy theories and arguing about them are the very same people who are doing nothing about anything. So what if you get your conspiracy theory confirmed? What you going to do next? Just talk about it? Especially if you think it's something that's negatively impacting our environment and our being and our reality. What are you going to do about it? Argue about it on the internet? Are you going to do anything about it? No. I just think that you're spinning your wheels. A lot of the time, you're just spinning your wheels. It's okay to gather knowledge. It's okay to do stuff about things. But unless you actually go to get a platform or create something that aids and assists humanity in understanding what it is that you think you understand, without having to be argumentative and insulting to the people that you are speaking to and about, then I don't know if it's going to be even effective or worth your time. That's just my 2 cents on it. Believe what y'all want to believe. Because I know some people get joy and pleasure out of that. No different than I got joy and pleasure out of being alone and reading books about Egypt when I was a tiny person, when I could have been just playing outside and watching cartoons. I love me some good cartoons, don't get me wrong, but I don't know, ancient Egypt was the jam back then. And in times of comfort, of needing comfort, as I grew, into my being that was still, I'm searching documentaries on ancient Egypt. I'm not the only one. That was my comfort. That was my comfort zone. Like people have a comfort zone shows. I have that comfort zone where it's like ancient Egypt and mythology and things like this. That was my comfort. And I can't tell you why. And when I meet somebody else who's like that, I'm like, I think I know why. But at the same time, does it matter? Did it comfort you? It did. It comforted me too. And then we can discuss. It's a good conversation to have. What did you learn and when did you learn it? Kind of thing. I think part of it helped wake me up as a person. And when I say wake up, that means that I'm aware that I am a part of one big source of energy. And you don't have to be aware of that yet. You don't even have to believe in that. I'm just telling you what I feel like I've become aware of. And you can take that or leave it. Even if you don't take that, you take other things that I say and it's helpful to you, cool. That's the way I feel about it. Anyway, I hope I haven't been all over the place. And again, I know it's Monday, not Sunday, but I'll talk at y'all again soon. Bye. You're loved.